Every now and then comes a game that is so good at what it does, you don't really want much to change with it. But as time passes, that game eventually starts feeling a bit old and the sequel arrives. Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord is such a story. In 2008, developer Tailworlds Interactive and publisher Paradox Interactive released Mount & Blade to quite mixed reception. On display was a classic Eurojank game. Incredibly innovative with gameplay systems, complex where it needed to be, but not without problems. Apart from the already at the time dated graphics, the critics' main gripes were the repetitive dialogue, locations, and part of the game honestly kinda lacked depth seen elsewhere. 2 years later, the standalone expansion Warband released, and while graphics were as dated as ever, a lot of the complaints were taken care of. One spin-off, some DLC, and a lot of success on the modding scene later, it was very clear that Mount & Blade Warband was a hit. Massive one. The announcement of the sequel, titled Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, was announced in 2012, with promises of improvements of things like sieges and better graphics to follow in the years to come. And after a few years of trailers and gameplay footage at events, as well as more and more regular blog posts, the game finally entered early access in 2020, with the full release coming just recently towards the end of 2022. And somehow they managed to provide what they set out to do. A more streamlined, polished and improved game from Warband, both in terms of graphics and gameplay, while still at the end of the day being more of the same. The same gameplay loops, the same combat system and the same sandboxes here, and that is a good thing. But there are also a couple of changes and improvements made. Quests are slightly less repetitive, the diplomacy features are slightly expanded, commanding your army is easier and more fleshed out, and much more. But if you're entering the game fresh with no prior knowledge, here is what you need to know.
With the world at your feet.
After a robust character creator that can make anything except look good-looking characters, you define your background and through that some starting stats. You're then placed on the map with a horse, some basic clothes and basic weapons. Easy enough to challenge a measly looter, but nothing to take on armies with. This overworld map is where the meat of the strategy takes place. Here you have a strategic role-playing game where the entire world is simulated while you move around, with the lords and armies marching about, having tournaments, skirmishes or even outright sieges and wars, with or without your involvement. Villagers produce goods and travel to nearby towns to sell at the markets. Caravans trade for profit between cities, and groups of bandits roam the map and looking for easy prey. You're just one person, in a new and unknown clan, along with your brother. A single pawn on a massive board of chess. So you start traveling the world. You talk to notable people in cities and villages. You help them out with their troubles for coin. You fight bandits, you sell the loot, ransom the prisoners, and engage in tournaments yourself. In the villages and cities you pass, you trade, recruit young men, train them on the battlefield. Your nameless party members die, but you find others to take their place, and suddenly, you're notable enough to find employment as a mercenary in one of the 8 realms. After gaining renown and building a relationship with the lords and ladies, you might even be granted the opportunity to join the ranks as a lord of the land, taking control of your own fiefs in the world, and maybe even one day break free and create your own kingdom, possibly uniting the world of Calradia under one banner. Yours. The possibilities of how you play the game, the overworld gameplay, is very much up to you. The path described is just one of many you can take. It truly is a strategic RPG up here, and one you can shape as you like. In my main playthrough, I married the daughter of the Empress of the Southern Empire, and I'm building my clan into one of the most notable in the Empire. Next campaign, I'll be creating my own Viking tribe and trying to conquer the world by myself. In another, I might try the more trade-focused approach, just be a caravan going around. But at the end of the day, running around the map is merely half of the game. But the other half will need to look closer to the ground and find an enemy to fight.
A time for blades.
Once in combat, you control yourself in third-person or first-person view, depending on your preference. You bring the mount, armor, and the 4 weapon slots you have with you in hand-to-hand combat, along with the rest of your army, of course. And the army is doing its own thing. You have a surprisingly robust, if a little clunky way to give them orders. You can send your archers up the hill, place your pikemen and infantry in front of them on the bottom, and ride around the enemy with your cavalry following you around. You can hold down or just plain charge head-on with anything in between. Orders are carried out directly, but some require time to execute. So the managing of the armies is almost as deep as most RTS games. But at the same time, this is an action game. You can ride or run up to enemies and smack their heads in with your warhammer, split skulls with your axes or swords, and fill enemies with bolts, arrows, and javelins. Blocking and attacking uses a directional system, enabling feints and making timing imperative. It's, again, a robust, deep system, but you can do decently by just hacking and slashing with the lower difficulty settings. And a common theme for the game is just that. It is what you make it. Battles can be auto-resolved if you want to break from the combat systems. Quests are plenty and varied, although it could do with a few more, and most systems are quite easily learned, but hard to master. Bannerlord is one of those games that can stay with you for years to come if you wanted to, or you can just scrape the surface and enjoy a single playthrough and be done with it.
Held for ransom.
The game is undoubtedly great, but it's not perfect. Quests, while less repetitive than previous iterations, are still not as varied as they maybe need to be. Some gameplay systems are lacking in depth, whereas others are maybe a little bit too complex at times even. Graphically, the game is decent, but it's maybe not up to the standards of a lot of other games in 2022, even in the indie segments, especially the character models. And honestly, the writing that's here can be kinda lackluster at times too. But this game makes up for everything in scope. Yes, the graphics aren't better than decent, but that means the game can handle up to 1,000 troops on the battlefield at once, each of them trying to follow your orders and take down their foes. Standing in the field with your archers, seeing 200 knights charging at you on horseback, that's a sight to behold and honestly kinda scary. And scaling the walls of a big city during a siege never gets old. And I'm sure over time, patches and mods will fill gaps. Lots of mods already exist and do just that. And while I, a cloud gamer, currently can't enjoy the mods, at some point I'll get a PC that can do it and try it out. Or maybe even mods come to cloud at some point. If you just pick up one game this year, you could do a lot worse than Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. Not only does it have my seal of approval, it is my game of the year for 2022.